In the news, President Bush will brief congressional leaders today on his anti-drug program to be announced tonight in a nationwide address. More U.S. military aid is on the way to Colombia this morning to help fight the drug kingpins there. And there's been more racial strife in South Africa, where hundreds of thousands of blacks are striking for the right to vote. In tennis, 37-year-old Jimmy Connors has pulled an upset in U.S. Open competition, and we'll have an update on Hurricane Gabrielle. I'm John Palmer, and this is Tuesday, September the 5th.
This is NBC News at Sunrise with John Palmer.
Good morning. President Bush, in a nationally televised address, plans to declare war on drugs tonight, announcing a comprehensive plan costing nearly $8 billion. But as NBC News White House correspondent Sandy Gilmore reports this morning, some critics are worried that the effort just won't be enough.
Take my word for it, this scourge will stop.
Nearly 8 months after his inaugural promise to end drug abuse, the president says he is ready to act.
I try and my hardest, my best, to mobilize the nation.
The president will call for spending $7.8 billion in an all-out war against drugs, including more than $1 billion for new prisons, more than $900 million for drug treatment, more than $300 million to help local law enforcement, and a plea for states to do more. The president will also request more money for drug education programs, and he will urge schools and colleges to get tough. In Latin America, the president wants several $100 million to help other countries eliminate drug production, especially in Peru, Bolivia, and Colombia. The president will not, however, recommend sending in U.S. troops unless requested.
I don't think the president of Colombia wants American troops. In fact, I know he doesn't. But if he changes his mind, fine.
The president's speech will be a call to arms to fight drug abuse, and he will find few people disagreeing with that. Where he will run into opposition is in Congress, where many members feel that what the president is proposing is not enough. Sandy Gilmore, NBC News, the White House.
And more U.S. military aid is on the way to Colombia this morning to help that country in its battle against the drug cartels. 5 U.S. military helicopters are due to arrive today, following weekend deliveries of 2 C-130 transport planes and 8 reconnaissance planes. And at the same time, as NBC News correspondent Noah Nelson reports, a bomb blast is the latest act of violence by the drug kingpins and their supporters.
The bomb exploded in a residential section of Medellin. A small police booth was destroyed. Some residents of this affluent neighborhood were shocked by the assault. There were no injuries from the explosion. More U.S. military aid is on its way to Colombia. Combat helicopters and other weapons will arrive today. Colombian authorities are still investigating the Monday attack at Medellin Airport. A gunman with an automatic weapon opened fire, killing 1 person and wounding several others. The reason for the assault is unknown. The attacker was killed by airport police. Noah Nelson, NBC News, Bogota.
And in South Africa, the government crackdown on anti-apartheid protesters is getting increasingly violent in advance of tomorrow's elections. Among those detained yesterday was Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu. We get the latest on the protests and the crackdown from NBC News correspondent Robin Lloyd in Johannesburg.
This morning, Archbishop Tutu came to re-sanctify his cathedral because police had forced their way in. Police briefly detained Archbishop Tutu and 3 aides last night, along with fellow church leader Reverend Alan Busak, for refusing to leave a church the police had surrounded. Authorities were trying to stop people from gathering at the church. Even an all-white choir wasn't allowed in. With just 1 day to go before national elections, which exclude blacks, anti-apartheid activists have called for a work stoppage. Today, many bus stations and streets were empty, as blacks showed their defiance against the apartheid government by staying home. The candidates have now given their final campaign speeches. Acting State President F.W. de Klerk promising an end to white domination. But even as he talked of a new South Africa, outside the city hall, his police chased away a crowd of black demonstrators who said they wanted to share their views with the president. Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Johannesburg.
In other news this morning, American blood banks are stepping up imports from Europe to meet the growing demand for blood in this country. About 40% of the U.S. population is eligible to donate blood, but only about 6% of us actually do. While officials worry about a growing dependence on blood imports, they say European supplies are just as safe as American blood and considerably less expensive. And finally, from Alaska, some disturbing news about our national symbol, the bald eagle. At least 146 eagles have been killed by the Exxon oil spill. But what worries scientists more, the contamination has severely affected the eagle's ability to reproduce. More from NBC's Don Oliver in Valdez.
In Prince William Sound, many of the nests which would normally contain young bald eagles are empty. A federal study indicates that 67% of the eagle nests in the area affected by the Exxon Valdez oil spill failed to produce any young this year. Scientists say that is alarming. Nearly 150 bald eagles have been found dead since the oil spill, but that number may be only a tenth of those that actually have died as the result of eating food contaminated by oil or being oiled themselves. Those who are caring for sick birds say the breeding rates for the remaining bald eagles will probably decline dramatically.
By the time you get into your third or fourth year, you probably aren't going to have much in the way of a breeding population that evolved from this year. The eagles will recover. It'll be a very slow process.
If it turns out that the eagle's food chain has been greatly contaminated by the oil, the long-term effect on the eagle population may be even worse than scientists now fear. Don Oliver, NBC News, Valdez, Alaska.
In sports, an old man, 37-year-old Jimmy Connors, pulls a big upset at the U.S. Open, and baseball's pennant races are heating up as they enter the final month. Don Criqui has all the sports when we return.
I remember when staining wood was one big messy headache. One coat was never enough. But with Carver Trip, it's different. Thick and color-rich, not thin and watery. Twice as much pigment as other stains. Real pigment, too. Best of all, it's easy to use. Why, just one coat gives you perfect results. The way I see it, when you buy Carver Trip, you're buying top quality.
Norman, what's that?
Nothing, honey.
I asked a simple question. Norman, are you eating something?
It's nothing, honey.
He lies like a dog.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch. Crisp golden flakes glazed with sweet honey and real roasted peanuts.
Irene, what's that you're playing?
Nut and honey. Two can play this little game.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch. I want to taste. Give me just a taste.
If you want to taste something truly sensational, just look for the NutraSweet Swirl.
Oh, you start me up. Don't ever quit. NutraSweet's the one. Give me just a little bit. Ooh, I need a taste of yeah. NutraSweet. Give me just a taste.
NutraSweet, why so many things taste so good.
It was an exciting night in sports, especially tennis. To tell us about that, other news from the world of sports, here's Don Criqui. Don?
Good morning, John. 37-year-old Jimmy Connors says when he's competing on a tennis court, it's a war zone. Connors, down 15 pounds for one more run at the U.S. Open title that he's won 5 times, was in fighting for him last night. The 13th-seeded Connors in the near court dispatched third-seed Stefan Edberg in straight sets to advance to a quarterfinal match against Andre Agassi. Connors was penalized a game and fined over $2,000 during last night's match for arguing with a chair umpire. Top seed Ivan Lendl needed 5 sets to beat Andrei Chesnikov of the Soviet Union. Tim Mayotte defeated French Open champion Michael Chang. The St. Louis Cardinals continue to keep the pressure on the Chicago Cubs in the National League East. Both won last night. The Cardinals got some unexpected help from Montreal right fielder Larry Walker, who misplayed Terry Pendleton's liner into a 2-run triple, and St. Louis went on to beat the Expos 4-1. The Cubs stayed a game and a half in front with a 7-3 win over the Mets. The Pirates beat the Phillies. The Giants won again. They now lead the West by 7 games as the Dodgers top the Astros. And Jack Clark led the Padres with 2 homers and 7 RBIs. After a fast start this season, the Cleveland Indians have been in a prolonged sinking spell, and manager Doc Edwards is showing the strain. Edwards was ejected during a 5-4 loss at Baltimore last night. After tossing first base for distance and accuracy, Edwards proceeded to kick over 2 water coolers, threw a batting helmet, and was immediately sent to his room. Toronto won again to stay 1 game up on the Orioles. The Red Sox beat the A's, and Detroit won. And the Yankees made it 5 straight wins, while Texas topped the Twins. There was a major upset last night in college football. 5th-ranked Southern California was a 3-touchdown favorite over Illinois, a team that had never defeated USC in 10 previous tries, and it didn't appear it would happen last night. Southern California led 13-0 with 6 minutes to play, and Illini quarterback Jeff George fired downfield. A tip ball ended up in the hands of Illinois receiver Sean Wax, and he ended up in the end zone. Soon after, George connected on another scoring throw, and Illinois had a 14-13 upset win. In another game last night, 14th-rated Colorado defeated Texas 27-6. And that's sports, John.
Nobody threw any water coolers there, I assume.
No, just helmets.
All right. Thanks, Don. And when we come back, the nation's weather and an update on Hurricane Gabrielle. Joe Whitty is next on NBC News at Sunrise.
A little cheddar makes plain chili taste better. But take the cheddar cheese away. Hey, so add a little cheddar cheese and add a lot of taste. Yeah, cheese makes all the difference.
What's the difference? It takes too long to learn to use a computer.
Wrong. DeskMate makes the difference with graphics that guide you.
Learning new software is like starting over.
Not now. DeskMate uses the same plain English commands with different programs like load a spreadsheet for DeskMate.
A computer? I wouldn't know what to do.
Now you will. DeskMate makes the difference.
DeskMate is simple.
It's PC compatible.
DeskMate is even easier on Tandy computers.
The friendly face in the PC crowd at Radio Shack and participating dealers.
Did you know that eating delicious Weight Watchers entrees can help keep your calories down and your energy up? And some of us need all the help we can get.
America's national forests are really wonderful places to get away to get a little elbow room when the city starts squeezing you in. Why not come and see the miracle for yourself? Get involved with Forests for Us.
We'd be glad to have you.
Lyndon Johnson, George Orwell, Chris Christopherson, George C. Scott, Plato, Clara Barton, Andy Sullivan, D.H. Lawrence, Booker T. Washington, Aristotle, Albert Einstein, and my mother and father. Throughout history, in every field of human endeavor, whenever men and women achieve greatness, they share it with others by becoming teachers. Here's to everyone who can and does. The more you know about anything, the more likely you are to teach.
As promised, Joe Whitty. Joe?
Morning, John. Good morning, everyone. Well, Mother Nature certainly worked hard on Labor Day. 7 inches of rain in Jacksonville, Florida. Slow-moving thunderstorms caused the deluge. Now, way out over the Atlantic Ocean, Hurricane Gabrielle is tracking on a path that will take the storm safely north of the Virgin Islands in Puerto Rico. Gabrielle is a large and powerful storm with 130-mile-an-hour winds. Too early to tell where it will threaten the southeast coast, if it will do that, but not until the weekend. Now, for today, the risk of strong thunderstorms exists over the Great Plains states. For later today, some showers over the Ohio Valley and along the Gulf, and the northern Rockies could see some cold rain and mountain snows tonight. That is my national weather. Now here's what's happening in your neighborhood. For Chicago, 82 degrees for a high today. Denver, 89. L.A. going up to 86 degrees. Dallas, Fort Worth still sizzling with a high today close to 100 degrees. Much more coming up later. John?
Thank you, Joe. The news continues in just a moment. You're watching NBC News at Sunrise.
I'm Bryant Gumbel. Later this morning on Today, we'll preview the president's speech on drugs. We'll also talk with Pearl Bailey, rock star Annie Lennox, and Clint Eastwood. Later this morning on Today.
Some people say the press goes too far sometimes.
Sorry, I don't think it's appropriate to comment at this time.
Had they stopped here, you may never have known about Watergate.
No comment. Please, no comment.
Or here, you may never have known if an issue concerned you.
The committee approved all.
Now you say the committee was involved, sir?
No.
To protect your right to be informed,
I have nothing more to say.
how far should the press go? To learn more about the free press, contact the First Amendment Center.
Workout with Jeopardy, weekday mornings at 11:30.
Here are some of the stories we're watching this Tuesday morning on NBC News at sunrise. President Bush unveils his new drug program, more bombings in Colombia's cocaine war, and Marvin Davis looks at foreign aid in taking over United Airlines. Details coming up. The long holiday weekend is over, and this morning it's back to work. To help ease the transition, NBC's Bill Schechner takes another look at a talented lady with a gift for teaching and playing beautiful music.
Normally, what's heard along the coast of New England is the sounds of the sea. In Camden, Maine, there's something else. This is the Camden, Maine Summer Harp Colony.
That's it. Play this chord very beautifully, please.
81-year-old Alice Shalafou is its complete staff and administration.
You have to work like the devil to play like an angel. Anybody who wants to learn, I'm willing to spend time with.
Quite democratic for a grande dame of the harp. Alice Shalafou's protégés account for entire sections in leading orchestras.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
Students come from around the world to study with her. This year, she has 54.
You know what you're doing? Yeah. Don't do that. That's it.
12 hours a day, this feisty master prods and polishes. Laura Smithberg is one of her students.
You can't believe it's coming out of your hands. But it's not like she gives it to you. It's like, you know, I've been telling you this for 4 years, and you finally get it, and then you're amazed.
I like it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I wouldn't do anything I didn't like. Some people ask me, do you ever go in the ocean? I say, yes, once in 1932.
Alice Shalafou's first job was with the Cleveland Orchestra. It was 1931. She was 23. She was their first woman player.
When we would go on tours, there would be one bathroom or something, or I didn't demand a dressing room. I dressed in my harp case. Sometimes I miss playing, but it was a matter of whether I would give up the orchestra or give up teaching.
Did they really lock you in your harp trunk one time?
You needn't talk about that. I enjoy these kids that I teach. I feel like they're my children, more or less.
After 60 years, there are thousands of these children.
My investment in the future is teaching them to the best of my ability so that they become fine players and fine harpists and hopefully good people. I am no spring chicken, but I am just going to stick around till I drop because it's very interesting to see what's going to happen.
And to see how far her earthbound angels can take the music. Bill Schechner, NBC News, Camden, Maine.
And we'll have more news. Tom Herman will take a look at Wall Street. Alan Abelson is here, and Joe Whitty's got the weather when we return. Topping our news this morning, the president unveils his battle plan for the war on drugs. It's a nationwide address tonight. President Bush will focus on cocaine and crack, but even casual users could face suspension of driver's licenses and other sanctions. NBC News will broadcast the speech live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time this evening. In Colombia, there were more bombings Monday night in the heart of that nation's cocaine country. One damaged a small police outpost in Medellin. There were no serious injuries there. Much of the violence is blamed on the cocaine cartels responding to the government's crackdown on drugs. The unusually high murder rate in Washington, D.C. is a product of the drug trade. 2 out of 3 killings are tied directly to drugs. In today's Drug Watch report, we are told that many of the victims are very, very young. Don Williams of NBC station WRC tells of a 13-year-old whose death stunned the city.
On the streets of Washington, D.C., the drug underworld is a seductive mistress. It became brutally clear how unforgiving she can be in July. Early one Sunday morning, 13-year-old Derek Connor was shot to death. But his mother may have lost him long before that.
It was nothing but the fast money, the calls, how easy it is for the bigger guys out there.
Connor's death shocked the city. He was one of those who was supposed to make it. Although he had confessed to selling crack at times, he'd got involved with Ernest White's mentor program for kids who lived in the bowels of underprivilege.
We were cheated out of a guy who could have made tremendous contributions to the community, tremendous contributions to the other boys in the program, and later on, tremendous contributions to society.
And so it was. The world Derek Connor saw was filled with guys driving expensive cars, wearing gold. Guys who lived in the same poverty he saw. Some were killers. Almost 2/3 of the 300-plus murders in the district this year are drug-related. Police say the 16-year-old buried this day may have killed 2 people. Someone's fear may have killed him.
They are afraid. And that's one reason why they're killing, because if I don't get you, you're going to get me.
Promised us that he would be a counselor.
Derek Connor was a gifted writer who could have one day written his way out. Instead, drug-filled streets swallowed him up and wrote the end of his story. Don Williams for NBC News, Washington.
In business news this morning, Marvin Davis goes after foreign help in his efforts to buy the friendly skies. Davis is trying to enlist overseas airlines to help him top the buyout bid made last week by UAL corporate executives and United Airlines pilots who have been offered help from British Airways. And now, looking ahead to today's market day, here's the Wall Street Journal's Tom Herman. Tom, good morning.
Morning, John.
We've had a lot of good economic news lately. You have more from the market report this morning, right?
That's right, John. The main story this morning is the dollar's strength. The dollar is up against the Japanese yen, the West German mark, and the British pound. And the traders in London I just spoke to said that's a good sign for the American markets because a stronger dollar attracts more foreign buying to both stocks and bonds.
Is that good news for Wall Street today, you think?
It probably is, yes.
What about gold?
Gold, that's another good sign. The price of gold is down again. In the early 1980s, it was as high as $8.50 an ounce. Now it's down to below $3.60 an ounce. That's another sign that people are not worried about the inflation outlook right now.
There has been a lot of concern, as you well know, about interest rates. What's the Fed going to do? What do you think the Fed's going to do now?
Probably hold rates steady. Federal Reserve officials are telling us that they think the economy looks healthy. There's no sign of a recession coming, so they're going to hold policy steady.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, John.
And coming up in just a minute, Alan Abelson checks in with his look at the stock market and the economy in general for the remainder of this year.
Morning, Joanne.
Approved, yes?
Right, and Steve knows about the change, the exclusion of the top 10.
This is my husband, Michael. He's under a lot of pressure, but now he's doing things differently. Like taking the stairs, eating more fruit, and cutting down on cholesterol and saturated fat. That's why I cook the foods he loves with Puritan oil. Puritan has no cholesterol and is 94% saturated fat-free. I've got an idea.
The health club before dinner. Great.
Michael is feeling wonderful. And I am too.
Puritan. Make it his oil for life.
I want you to take a look at something here. The ingredient list on a box of Quaker Oats. Now, there's a couple important things you learn here. Number one, there's nothing added. Look here, an ingredient list with one ingredient, 100% oats, nothing added. Number two, there's nothing taken out. It's a whole grain with all the oat bran right in there. Quaker gives you every bit of oat bran that nature ever intended. Quaker Oats. It's the right thing to do.
You're looking for a hay fever product that doesn't make you drowsy. You look and look,
It can be very confusing. All those products, all those ingredients, all those claims. You just can't seem to find something that's right for you. It's very confusing.
See your doctor and end the confusion, because now you can get fast relief from all your hay fever symptoms without the drowsiness you may have had before. See your doctor.
Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals.
With Labor Day, the unofficial end of the summer season now behind us, Barron's editor Alan Abelson is back with us this morning with a look at the economy for the rest of the year. Alan, good morning.
Good morning, John.
I know you haven't been on vacation yet. You're a little bit late with that. But can you give us your assessment of what we can expect in the economy for the coming months?
I'll be glad to, John. Actually, you know, we've got a Methuselah of an economy here. I mean, this thing is the longest peacetime expansion without a recession ever. So I think we're going to see this economy keep going, at least for the end of the year, probably for a good part of next year as well. People have been reading obituaries for this economy all year long. I think they're just wrong. We've got, you know, a rather spongy economy here and there. There are soft spots. Manufacturing isn't quite as muscular as it could be. But I think overall, it's a remarkably strong economy, and it's going to continue to be strong, certainly vibrant all through the rest of this year. The consumer is going to really have a bang-up Christmas.
Well, Tom Herman was just telling us that this morning on the markets in Tokyo and London that gold is down and that the dollar is up. And we talked a little bit about interest rates. What do you figure on interest rates here?
Well, I think, as Tom said, the Fed probably would like to keep it steady, but, you know, I think there may be something working in favor of lower rates. I had thought rates would certainly keep steady, maybe rise, but I think the strength in the dollar may decide the Fed to really turn down interest rates, because that would certainly stop this rise in the dollar. But if rates continue to rise, well, then interest rates will go up all over the world, and I don't think anybody wants that. So you can expect that probably if this dollar continues, let's say, over 150 yen, then we're going to see some kind of a move by the Fed to lower rates.
Now, the stock market, do you expect the Dow Jones Industrial Average to go up a couple of hundred points between now and Christmas?
Oh, why not? Maybe tomorrow, John. At some point, I really expect we're going to have one of those crazy days where instead of the market going down 500 points, maybe it'll go up 200 or 300 points.
Really?
Yeah, and when that happens, that's when I think I would start running, not walking, toward the exits.
But you wouldn't advise anybody, the investors coming back from vacation now looking at the market, to start running today?
I don't think they ought to run today. On the other hand, you know, no one ever went broke taking a profit.
I'm sure of that. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, John.
Now, let's check in one more time with Joe Whitty. Joe?
That's right. If you're doing some flying and not running today, Labor Day has come and gone. Time to get back to work. And if that involves a trip in a plane, there's just a couple of spots that may have some weather delays. Detroit, Miami, possible thunderstorm delays. And later today, this afternoon and evening, strong thunderstorms over parts of the Central Plains. Kansas City may have some airport delays. Traveling today, a few scattered showers down the Gulf. Very hot temperatures in Texas, 100 degrees again, and some light scattered showers through parts of the Ohio Valley. The East Coast looks to be in pretty good shape. Now, Hurricane Gabrielle is spinning along, tracking well north of the islands, and should be no threat to those. And a big question mark for the weekend, will it sweep towards the east coast of the U.S.? We'll keep a close eye on that. Now, here's some news for you. There's going to be some snow tonight, right after Labor Day, in the northern Rockies, up to a foot on some of the high mountain peaks. Snow level going down to about 5,000 to 6,000 feet. Hard to believe one day after Labor Day, you got to think about snow tires. John?
Thanks, Joe, and that's NBC News at Sunrise for this Tuesday morning. I'm John Palmer. Have a very nice day, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Thank you.